As I'm shooting this, it's been around 2 days since the beta launches of iOS 18, iPadOS 18, macOS Sequoia, watchOS 11, and tvOS 18 launched to developers across the world. And of course, I haven't installed them. I'm not a developer. That would mean I'd have to lie to Apple. Did I mention I'm a liar? I've been running all of the betas, mostly all of them, since literally the morning of the keynote. And it's been a pretty interesting experience, one that is much better than any other beta experience I've had before it. Let's get into it. I'm going to start with tvOS because honestly, I haven't noticed any of the changes. I updated to that beta for the sole purpose of having the Snoopy screensaver on at all hours of the day, and that's not even available in the current beta. The new photo screensavers are, but I'm not quite sure that the portrait one actually exists yet, because it's been syncing and processing iCloud photos since I installed it 2 days ago. The photos one is nice to have, but I would like some more customization in what it shows on your screen, similar to what Portraits does. Currently, you can choose whether it uses all of your memories, just your favorite ones, whether it uses album art, etc. But I would love to have more flexibility in things like not showing people, just landscapes, things like that. I'm aware that I could just make an album and just show that because that is one of the options, but I can't be bothered. Like I mentioned earlier, you can also have it just show your album art from your Apple Music library, but I'd rather not have this on my TV screen, and I'm sure Party Next Door fans can attest to that opinion. There are some really good features for content consumption in tvOS, which is good considering that tvOS is made for content consumption. There's a new enhanced dialogue feature, which is great because modern films keep mixing for multi-$1,000 setups and forgetting that most people are going to watch it on their dorm room TV. And skipping back a bit or turning on mute now automatically enables subtitles, which is a great touch. Not that I'll be able to use any of it because I only watch YouTube on the Apple TV, which uses its own player. Apple TV Plus content is also getting their own version of Amazon's X-Ray, which lets you view what actors are on screen or what music's playing in the background, and even with Insight, add it to your Apple Music library. It's yet to be seen whether that works for adding to Spotify. I'm gonna let you take a guess, and I'm also gonna guess no. Unlike Amazon, you can actually pull up Insight on your phone without having anything appear on your TV, which is great if you want to appear really smart or just don't want to annoy everyone that's watching with you. The Apple Fitness Plus app also got a really nice looking redesign. It's not here yet. I was really looking forward to using that because I use Apple Fitness Plus a lot. I've got a review on it. You can watch it somewhere. But yeah, it's not in the first beta yet. There's a lot of stuff that just isn't present in this first beta. tvOS was bundled into like audio and home in the keynote, so there's a lot of things there as well, like guest access, electricity use, robot vacuums in home, etc. I haven't used or tested any of this. It doesn't really apply to my use case. Projectors, which I also don't own, but they can now watch 21:9 movies in Apple TV in their like native format, which is really cool. And spatial audio is coming to AirPlay for HomePods and supported third-party equipment. Other than that, I haven't really noticed anything new in tvOS, and if literally anything came to HomePod Mini, I haven't noticed. There's also a bug I found recently where if you scroll through a big playlist in Apple Music, it just doesn't scroll, so that's fun. Next up, watchOS. I didn't install watchOS 11. I've got like a year-long activity ring streak and I'm not breaking that because, the bugs did something and wiped it. There's a lot of cool stuff there. There's the new Vitals app, there's pausing and changing your rings per day, which is really cool, and I am really looking forward to using that. Live activities in the Smart Stack, things like that. None of it really interested me enough to take the risk on my watch because I know that's going to be really painful if I have to go down to the Apple Store and get that reformatted, and I don't want to deal with that. macOS Sequoia, on the other hand, is really good. I haven't used any of the new features. It is really nice. There's a few little additions that I've noticed here and there, but I mainly updated to use the iPhone mirroring, and surprise, surprise, that is not available. The app exists. You can actually find it if you turn on hidden items in your Finder and go to the applications folder, or Raycast just picks it up immediately, but opening it just crashes immediately. There is also a generative playground app which does open and you can find it in the same way, but it doesn't let you generate anything or even see the UI by default. I actually replied to a tweet around the iPhone mirroring app being available with that generative playground app also being available, and another user at XEZRunner replied to that tweet with a screenshot of the app in the user interface. And obviously they couldn't get it to generate anything yet. They haven't, integrated that into the OS yet, but we got a glimpse of the UI, and we also got a somewhat terrifying glimpse into a developer option entitled Disable Prompt Safety and Disable Image Safety. If those options are present in the binary at all when this launches publicly, even if it's just a developer feature, someone is going to find a way around that, and it is going to be disastrous. So let's hope they just wipe that option from the public releases. Window snapping is really nice to finally see as a native feature. For me personally, it hasn't like entirely replaced Rectangle, because Rectangle lets you bind custom shortcuts to move windows around, which I use a lot. I'm using Carabiner to bind the caps lock to a super key, and then I use that kind of like a dedicated window management key. I think I talked about that in my M2 MacBook Air review. You can't do that natively yet. The only keyboard shortcut that I can find that's available is holding Option and dragging a window makes it easier to snap them into a position. I have turned off Rectangle for like snapping windows though, because that native experience is just a lot nicer. I can already think of at least 4 apps that have just that will probably die because this is now baked into the OS. So that's fun. There was a lot of Sherlocking in this event. Anyone remember Humane? I have experienced one major issue that involves CleanShot and a few other third-party screen capture apps. But there's a new privacy pop-up. It's designed to kind of say, hey, this app has been able to access your entire screen for a while. Do you want to keep allowing that? In theory and on paper, it sounds good, and if implemented correctly, this would be a fine feature. But now, every few screenshots that you take with CleanShot, it brings up that prompt, and if you're in the wrong menu, like the all-in-one menu in CleanShot, it just locks up the app, which has taken over your entire screen by that point, and the entire system becomes essentially unusable. It requires you to either hard reset or just kind of wait an undisclosed and completely unpredictable amount of time for functionality to return. No matter how many times you say yes, continue to allow, it still asks. This marks the second macOS beta in a row where third-party apps have been kind of messed up by like screen capture privacy permissions. Remember when having Bartender open would have a permanent screen capture window in your status bar? Yeah, I don't miss that either. One thing I was really hoping for was an Apple Music revamp on macOS, because it's not the best app, especially compared to iOS, and even the Windows app is better, I'd say. Apple, thankfully, responded to this. They added a little animation when you like move your mouse cursor between songs. Thanks, Tim Cook. I also recently found out that if you right-click a disk in Finder, you can encrypt it and format it without opening Disk Utility, which is a really nice touch. I format SD cards and memory devices a lot for, you know, my camera and my virginity collection up there, and you're not having to open Disk Utility every time is a great quality of life change. The new wallpapers are cool. I noticed that the retro Macintosh one actually shows your proper time and date when it's being shown on screen instead of just having a still image, which is a really nice touch. But other than that, there isn't really much exclusively new to Mac. A lot of the features added in macOS Sequoia are just kind of bridging the gap between iOS and macOS, making sure there's feature parity. Speaking of iOS, it's time to talk about the big guns, iOS and iPadOS. Both of those operating systems, and macOS, but more so iOS especially, has a very core part in my life considering it powers this. These betas are hugely feature-packed and radically different to a lot of what we've seen before, so the stability of them I was expecting to be absolutely terrible. To be fair, a lot of that experience is based on me running betas on older iPhones. This is the first time I've ever had a mod, like a current iPhone, and used a dev beta on it. And it is honestly an excellent experience for me. I remember I was rocking my poor iPhone XR for the iOS 17 beta, and it struggled. It crumbled at the simplest of tasks. It also did that in iOS 16 and iOS 17 when that launched. And I'm not even gonna try iOS 18 because somehow it kept support. I feel for anyone who's like on their iPhone XR about to install the iOS 18 beta, good luck. On my 15 Pro Max, I haven't noticed a major drop in battery life, and performance is still rock solid in pretty much everything that I do. For me at least. Talking to my friend Alec, who you would have seen in the Meshtastic video, he has also got an iPhone 15 Pro Max, and he is running the iOS 18 beta, and he's mentioned terrible battery life, overheating, and performance issues. So it seems to be somewhat inconsistent. Obviously 2 people isn't a huge sample size, but that contrast is enough for me to kind of hold back off recommending that everyone go and install the beta immediately. If you're going to use the betas, just, take your precautions, make sure your iTunes backups are up to date, and just, get ready to downgrade if you have to. But again, for me, the betas have been excellent across basically every platform. I've only really noticed some instability on my M2 iPad Pro when I was multitasking. I had the iPad docked up to this monitor and keyboard, and I had Craft open doing some writing for this video. I noticed that Craft crashed more than a few times, which hasn't happened before, while I had Messages and Apple Music open on the other screen. For those wondering, this is what my home screen looks like with those new iOS 18 customization features. I'm pretty happy with this. I went through a few revisions trying to make the colors look nice, nice, and a few apps had to get cut from my home screen because they just look terrible with the tinting at the moment. MetaView particularly looks just absolutely arse. There's definitely a lot of interesting choices in iOS this year, particularly around design, and of course this home screen is one of them. Honestly, the icon coloring and the freedom of icon placement feels like something we never would have gotten in iOS natively. I remember back in the day, using iBlank to like put blank icons with, web clips on my iPod Touch 4th gen home screen, and I made some gnarly designs, and then I'd get annoyed because I'd change the wallpaper and I'd have to do it all over again. But now it's just native, which is just crazy to me. I'm really glad it's here, but it kind of feels almost out of place, especially when you consider it to what we had in the past. Not that far back, but you know what I mean. I reckon that a lot of the out of place feel of this design is literally entirely because it's a beta. Like, look at iOS 7's betas, they didn't look great, and that OS was revolutionary. It'll be really nice to see everyone's home screen once all the issues are ironed out and the devs get on board with making their icons and everything just feels more polished. That's going to be really great when that comes out in September. Alongside the customization in the home screen, we got real customization for the first time in the control center, which I really appreciate that. I honestly don't really use the other pages in the control center, but that main page having that customization is great for me. I've gotten it to work nicely with my workflow. It's not too different from what we used to have, but it is different. I would like to see some feature parity here with this. Shockingly, honestly, to me, the control center is available on iPadOS, but the macOS control center remains the exact same. iCloud sync for your settings too would be nice so that my muscle memory from my phone moves over to my iPad, but I also really understand the value in having two separate control centers for both of those devices, so I'm not going to complain too much. There's also the customizable lock screen toggles, which are nice to have, not that I ever use them. I've pretty much just replaced the camera on the lock screen with the Home app, and I mean, it's there now. It's pretty cool. One thing to note is that changing, for example, the button in the bottom right, replacing the camera button, doesn't remove the swipe gesture to access the camera, so that's still always available, which is, probably great. I haven't used it since I've gotten an action button iPhone, but that's a nice touch. Although I'm not sure how that'll work with third-party cameras being available on the lock screen, because those can be there now. Speaking of things I thought we'd never get, a calc on the iPad. Short for calculator if you're new to the channel.
Next, I want to talk about a feat that some may have concluded must be a mathematical impossibility. That's right, we're bringing Calculator to iPad.
Maths Notes is something that I, as a high school student, I've gotten a bit of use out of. But this is something that I've obviously been demoing iOS 18 to people I know, and Maths Notes is easily the feature I've demoed the most and that people have gotten the most use out of in that demo time. This is something that those people I've spoken to are really excited about. This is genuinely one of the most hyped features of iPadOS 18, I'd say. Those demos that I've given have been where the pitfalls of Maths Notes have really been shown. I take standard maths. I don't know what an integration is, but apparently they don't work in Maths Notes, and I've got a few feedbacks on screen. Those are things that other people have found to not work within Maths Notes. So hopefully it becomes really, advanced and flexible for use cases like these. Yeah, you can trust the advanced math students to find the pitfalls straight away, but even with those, Maths Note is still the feature that gets the most positive reactions out of people that I show it to. So that is something that people are really excited for, at least people I know. I also really like Maths Notes, and I wish I had it earlier considering I graduate in 3 months. iPadOS had basically 2 exclusive features, and one of them wasn't even exclusive because Maths Notes is coming to iPhone and Mac as well. But the other main one was Smart Script. Now, if you've used GoodNotes recently, you know they have that feature where it has autocorrect and it changes the spelling into your own handwriting, which is really cool. Apple basically took that, said hold my beer, injected it with steroids, and put it into Apple Notes. Smart Script also has the autocorrect feature, but it's way more fluid and just works quicker, has a nice animation, bases it off of your handwriting still, and also has just way more features. As you're writing, it cleans up your handwriting as you note take. You're also able to paste in text from anywhere and have it write out in your handwriting, which is just insane. I really wanted to use Apple Notes after seeing those, especially considering that the Maths Notes features are also available in just standard Apple Notes. So I gave it a try, and I came back thinking, damn, I wish GoodNotes would put all of these features into their app too. Apple Notes for me just isn't up to the standard of GoodNotes yet. You can't zoom in on your document, the writing engine in GoodNotes just feels nicer, and I honestly really hate how Apple organizes notes compared to GoodNotes' virtual notebook style. So I'm sticking to GoodNotes for now, but those Apple Notes features are insanely cool. I've also been messing with the new privacy features that were added, mainly locking and hiding apps, and yeah, I'm at that point where I don't really need these, but I can absolutely see the locking and hiding apps being insanely useful in so many different ways, but ways that I think could potentially save lives. And look, while my current use case is hiding Twitter, Discord, and Character AI from anyone using my phone, this is going to be really helpful for people in oppressive regions, people with abusive parents or in abusive relationships, and just people who need that extra privacy. While, if we're being real, a lot of the use cases are going to be people hiding Telegram that is filled with drug dealer channels, I truly think that the good outweighs the bad here, and I think this is going to be a very helpful feature. And while this is a fantastic start to more like end user privacy on iPhone, advanced data protection on iCloud and the Secure Enclave are excellent features that keep a lot of your data safe. They're not going to do much if an intruder just has your unlocked phone, or if it's someone you don't think is an intruder, like, again, an abusive partner, things like that. But I would really like to see Apple expand on the hidden apps feature. Samsung has honestly nailed this feature with Secure Folder in their version of Android One UI. It's basically an entirely separate part of the phone, different photo library, file system, apps, completely separate apps, which is just great, and like even more. And it's way easier to hide. You can, within the Secure Folder app, you can change the name, the icon, make it so it needs a passcode after this amount of time. You can make the passcode different to your phone passcode. I would love to see something like that on iOS. And I'd like to see the hidden folder be a bit more discreet, because currently it's just in the app library. Sure, you need Face ID to see the apps that are in there, but it's always visible. It kind of screams, look at me, I'm hiding apps. Now, to be fair, the hidden app folder shows all the time, even if you don't have anything hidden. So it's not a surefire way to be like, you're hiding something, but I'd still like to see it be a bit more discreet. Now, some of my favorite features have been in iMessage. I've only been able to use it with one other person on the beta, but they're still really cool, and I genuinely can't wait till September where I can use these with everyone. The redesigned tapbacks with emojis are so fun. They're so fun. I love them. They're great to have, considering that even Instagram DMs have this feature, and it just adds so much flexibility. And I can now react to messages with normal reactions like orange fluorescent vest. One thing I have noticed is that as of right now, people on older versions of iOS have absolutely no indication that you've reacted to something if you use an emoji. It was a similar situation when message editing launched in beta. If you made an edit to a message, the other person got absolutely no indication. They didn't see the edit, they weren't told that you edited, absolutely nothing. In later betas, eventually it just sent a message to all the versions saying edited to yada yada. I'm assuming it's going to be kind of like what happens when you react to an SMS and it just sends a message like reacted with this emoji. We also got text formatting, which is basically a nerfed version of Discord's Markdown, which I'd love to see full Markdown, but it's good to have it. You don't need to work around getting bold text with the subject line feature anymore. That's really nice. Again, that's not viewable or at all disclosed on anyone's phone if they're not on iOS 18, but that's not as crucial. These text effects are also really fun to use. They're a great complement to the effects that already exist within iMessage. Again, these are going to be a lot of fun when they release to everyone in September this year. One feature that you can use today that works with anyone no matter what version of iOS they're on are the scheduled messages, which I've already taken great advantage of and which work flawlessly. This can send to others on older versions of iOS, and no matter what version of iOS you're on, there's no indication to the other person that it was scheduled or sent later or anything, so do with that what you will. I've used this to make it look like I've messaged a friend during an exam, and I've already scheduled a happy birthday message, so I really like this feature. I don't need to go into shortcuts automations anymore. This also apparently works no matter what, whether your device is off or dead or whether something's happened. If you schedule something for next Tuesday 9 p.m, it's going to send next Tuesday 9 p.m. Now, this also likely means that the send later feature is happening up in iCloud. It's not being done from your device, which would explain why it doesn't work with SMS. You can only use scheduled messages with iMessage at the moment. I'm also really liking the Photos app redesign. It gives me hope that we're eventually going to see visionOS design language across the entire OS. Maybe they do a redesign for iOS 19? I wasn't old enough to watch the live keynote for iOS 7, so I'd like to see that happen live. The filter screenshots tool there is something I thought I'd use a lot. I thought I'd finally be able to grab my thousands of screenshots out of hidden, put them in the normal library and just turn on hide screenshots, but it works weird. It doesn't, as far as I can tell, it doesn't look at the metadata of the photo. It just uses machine learning to figure out, is this a screenshot or not, and it hides it from there. Because what I've noticed is that it picks up photos of screens that you've taken with your camera, but it also occasionally fails to detect actual screenshots that should have that screenshot metadata attached to them. Personally, I don't really like how it filters the screenshots, so I'm sticking with the hidden album for now. Also, as far as I can tell, it doesn't leave hide screenshots on by default, like you occasionally have to turn it off. I don't know if that's a bug, it might just be me, but I don't like having to filter them every time. There are, unfortunately, a lot of features in all of these betas, but particularly iOS, that just aren't available in the first beta, with messaging over satellite being one of them. This is the first iPhone satellite-based communication feature that isn't just for emergencies, like roadside assist or emergency calls. It just allows you to send any sort of message over iMessage or SMS over that same satellite network. As far as I can tell, it uses end-to-end encryption over iMessage, direct to the satellite, over, encrypted all the way. SMS, I'm assuming it would just end-to-end encrypt from your phone to the satellite, but SMS isn't encrypted, so they can't encrypt that part. RCS was also announced in the keynote. It's not currently available in beta 1, and they also didn't mention it talking about messaging over satellite, so that's kind of funny. The new Mail app also isn't out yet, although a lot of that is with Apple Intelligence, which I'll talk about later. And there's a lot of features that are US only that I would really like to have, like the tap to pay with Apple Pay Cash. I would like both of those in Australia. The messaging over satellite with that launch is going to be US only at first, but SOS over satellite made it to Australia and other countries. I believe it took just under a year for them to make it to other countries, so we should hopefully get that soon. And the topographic hiking maps are still US only at the moment. The only thing I really expect to not come to other countries anytime soon is Apple Pay Cash and Tap to Cash. So I guess that's not too bad, but damn, it looks so cool. On top of that, there's a ton of features which either aren't out yet or I just haven't used because I haven't really needed to use them. Things like the new game mode on iOS, the credit card rewards integration and event ticket features, and the new journal features. I don't really play mobile games, I don't have a credit card, so none of those really apply to my use case. I also don't really have a need for any of the newer accessibility features, but damn, they're cool. My favorite is easily the music haptics, which analyzes the song and makes your haptic motor vibrate to the beat. It's pretty hard to capture on video. I've done my best here to show it. I'm gonna kind of overlay the song so you can hear the Taptic engine and the song at the same time. But honestly, I just recommend trying it when it launches in September. It is, in beta 1, really difficult to get working. Sometimes it's there and it works fine, and then sometimes it turns off, and sometimes it just flat out isn't even in the settings. So it's a bit finicky to get working. It also, if you have it on, even if it's not active, if you have it enabled in accessibility features, it does replace the mini waveform in the dynamic island. For me, that's a deal breaker. I will not be keeping this feature on. There's also eye tracking, which is wildly impressive considering there's no additional hardware being used here. And while I'm lucky enough not to experience motion sickness, there is that dots, the moving dots on the screen that's supposed to counter motion sickness when you're in a moving vehicle, which is really nice. Now, I don't have a Vision Pro, but if I had 6,000 Australian dollars laying around, now I could, because Vision Pro is finally launching outside of the US. I won't be buying one, obviously, unless you want to, I don't know, give me $6,000, but I will be covering the launch event when it's out here, so get subscribed for that video. There were some really cool features in Vision OS 2 that really should have existed at launch, but it's nice to have them now, like moving apps around on the home screen. Travel mode also now officially supports trains, which I thought it already did, but sure, whatever. Which times really nicely with the launch to other countries that actually have functioning train systems. It wasn't really mentioned in the keynote, but there's a new predictive hand tracking, which makes it much closer to real time in terms of the latency, which is just excellent. I'm really excited for the future of this headset, which hopefully includes an affordable version that I can actually buy. And I haven't even talked about, I've been recording for over half an hour. I haven't even talked about Apple Intelligence yet. And that's because it's not out, and I haven't gotten a chance to use it, obviously, because it doesn't exist currently. The Apple developer website mentions a beta in the summer. So what I'm hoping is that that comes out in July and coincides with the public beta of all the OSs. So hopefully we can check it out then. I've got my 15 Pro ready to go. I am wildly excited for Apple Intelligence. Realistically, I'm probably coping and it's probably going to come out in September, but I can dream. Again, like, I'm really excited for Apple Intelligence. I can't wait to see how it evolves over the next couple of years and what's added, what features are there. I'm really excited for this. This is like genuinely revolutionary and like a new era of Siri and Apple, and it's going to be wild. So, what do I think of the betas? Well, they are fantastic. They have some great performance and some amazing new features that I've been using a fair bit. And the new features coming soon are going to be like even better, especially Apple Intelligence. Like, I can't wait. The inconsistency of the beta performance still stops me from recommending you go out and download them right now. But I'm sure you probably will, so if you do, just make sure your iTunes backups are up to date. iCloud backups do work, but they will be overwritten when it makes a new backup, which it does automatically overnight, so just keep an iTunes one. I'd love to see Apple have like dedicated backups for like non-beta versions. That'd be really cool to see, but just use iTunes. And make sure you're aware that you might need to spend a few hours downgrading back to 17 if anything goes majorly wrong. I remember there was one beta where messages just didn't work on my phone. I had to downgrade, so just keep that in mind. That is something you might have to do. All of these OS launches should happen in September, assuming there aren't any delays like what usually happens with macOS now. And my like general recommendation is just wait for those. If you really can't wait but you still want something stable, the public beta should be coming out in July, so there's that. But if you really know what you're doing, you can download the developer beta right now. I'll leave links to all of the programs for those in the description. So thanks for watching. I'll be continuously updating my favorite parts of iOS 18 and the betas over on Threads and on Instagram, which you can follow using the links on screen and in the description. Make sure to get subscribed to see my Australian Apple Vision Pro launch coverage, my Apple Intelligence reviews, and other videos too. And of course, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that button as well. If you want more videos, you can click over here to check out my review of the M2 MacBook Air, or you can click over here to see whatever my latest upload is. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.